Mounce, BBG, chapter 23, sentence 6. All right, starts with a chi, so you just run with and there. That's easy enough. Then you have op elthen, which hopefully you recognize that as the preposition, or I'm sorry, the prefix part. And then elthen, would come from elthon, which is one of those freaky verbs because erchomai goes to elusomai, which goes to elthon, right? So once you know that this ending has to be third singular, right? Because it's the only thing that epsilon nu can be. So, and he went away, right? Or something like that. Um, he went away, or he came away. He went away is the way I'd probably run with it. And then you have your really tough one because you're going to look at that and say, what on earth does that come from? Again, if you're sort of deconstructing it and saying, what are my options here? Um, one of the things you can do, of course, is you look at that augment and say, you look at the eta and you say, oh, yeah, that's probably an augment. So really what I probably had was either an alpha or an epsilon. Again, by default, I tend to try an alpha if I don't know any better first, and just say arcs. And then I say, well, wait a minute, if it's arcs, then maybe it's got a sigma built in there somehow, which tells me I probably ought to go with arc. And then I say, well, wait a minute, I know arco, right, which is I begin. So, or one of the options is I begin. So, it's got a pretty wide semantic range, but, since I already know which way to play with it here, anyway, arco can be I begin. So, then what that tells you is you definitely have an augment. You've got this passive ending, main soto methodist ento. So you got third singular again, which of course lines up with the first verb. But the question is it truly passive, or is this a deponent? Well, only way you're going to know that is to say, well, okay, I kind of figured out what verb it came from. So you go to your laminated sheets and you look at the very back and you go on the left column about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way down that first column of, common verb, the common verb list, and you'll see arco there. Well, lo and behold, when you get to the aorist form, which is the third form of arco, you read arxamane, and you realize that it is deponent. So once you know that it's deponent, you're going to translate it actively, and you're going to say, and he went away and he began, right? He began, and he gives you the infinitive here, to preach. And then, of course, this is hopefully easy enough in the Decapolis, right? You're going to kind of wing that one if you don't not familiar with that place, but that's all right. So he went away and he began to preach in the Decapolis, and then hasa, how much, and then you look at this, how much what, and you look at this and you say, well, okay, I see Jesus as the subject, right? Because I got a nominative there real clearly. So Jesus something to him, right? And you recognize that as being from poieo. Then you recognize you got an augment, right? And then you see a sigma epsilon nu, so you're looking at an aorist with the third singular ending, which lines up with Jesus as the subject. So how much Jesus did. And then, of course, we look at a word like auto and Jesus did to him. Well, that's not really the way we would probably say it, because, when we say Jesus did to him, it's kind of, we hear that as a sort of has a bad connotation, like, somebody did something to you. We hear that negatively. So the way we collocate that in order to have it mean the right thing for us is we would say for him. All right. Because again, I hope you guys hear the difference in terms of collocation between doing something to someone and doing something for someone. Because in English, doing something to someone has a negative connotation, and doing something for someone has a positive connotation. And of course, that's what it means here. So, running back to it one more time, sorry about that. And he went out and he began to preach in the Decapolis how much Jesus did for him.